Hello, 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 and welcome to Tuesdays, my favorite time to be here with you live. This is Dr. STEM. If this is your first time being here with me, I'm so excited that you're watching me today doing this live. This live today is an interesting one because I entitled it Why? Why is it so hard for us to love ourselves? Well, before I get into that title and the reasons that I came up with why, I even, took some time, put some notes together on just, writing down a few reasons of why I think, it's so difficult for many of us to love ourselves. Let me just, remind you that as of the beginning of this year 2023, I've been really getting into self-love because I've been in mental health. I'm a mental health professional. I'm also a life and career coach as well as a business coach, especially for women when it comes to coaching. And one of the things that I've seen in the past 25 years that I've been doing this work is the challenge and difficult of loving oneself. And I say this for men and women that it's been very difficult when it comes to talking about self love, that it's something that almost is taboo for people to talk about. It's difficult to embrace, to say, I can love myself whole, heartedly, and I can give of myself to me first before I can give to other people. So it's a struggle that I noticed that I was going through, and so were all the clients and patients that I was seeing for years and years and years, until I, started working on my own self-love and realized how freeing it was to really dig into all those things that block self love, and also dig into the reasons why it was so, important for me to focus on loving myself first. And you know what? The biggest benefit was how it impacted not only just my own personal life, but how it impacts, your businesses, your work, your career, your relationships, family relationships, love relationships, community relationships. It's all centered around self love. So I realized that, wow, self love is truly freedom, because many of the issues that we talk about in life are related to how we get to that space where we embrace ourselves and love ourselves. And yes, I said it, issues. We all have issues. That I've always known and believed from the very first day that I graduated to become a therapist. I knew that providing mental health therapy or even coaching or anything to anybody else does not, negate or take me away from having my own issues, that I also needed to work in therapy and work in coaching as well. And when you do that, right, it's part of self love as well to say we all have issues, which means we all have lives, and we all have, things that have affected us in life to become who we are, and also to block self love. So, talking about self love, let me just remind you, if you have not been to my website, yes, that's my website right here, www.drstemi.com. If you have not been there to take the free self love quiz, I want to encourage you to take the free self love quiz. It will be amazing to see how well you're doing. Because for me to just ask a question, how well are you doing when it comes to self love, or, from 0 to 10? Of course, people want to give themselves an 8, and they want to give themselves maybe 9.5. So when I realized that, to say, the rating that you give yourself, the life that you're living right now, the challenges and difficulties that are blocking you from living your best life or even being the best version of yourself, 3 different things or 4 different things. I decided, you know what? Let's create a quiz that everybody can take. But the questions that are there, even when you're taking them, you realize that, oh, you should just ask about this part here. I don't think I choose myself when it comes to such and such. So it'll be interesting. I urge you to go in there and take the questionnaire. Take your time, because then it's not a 3 question questionnaire, neither is it a 4 question questionnaire. You got pretty number of questions there. So here's the problem: many people are so used to this microwave lifestyle, right? We have 3 4 questions, or 5 6 questions. We're talking about your life. We are talking about self-love, which is all about you. So I decided, you know what, let's see how much me time that you can set aside, and say, you know what, let me just take at least 20 minutes, 15 20 minutes of my time, and just sit down and answer these questions as honestly and openly as I can. And then right after you do that, you hit end, and guess what, it tabulates your score and tells you even some of the questions that maybe you might want to rethink of how you're living your life, and how much self-love you can give to yourself, and to also take a look at your whole life after taking this. So it's been interesting. Many people that take it, we do schedule a session, and it's a free session that you can schedule with me as well. And on my website, you'll be able to see, just go away, says book a session with me, or send me an email after you take the session. If you want us to go over it, I'll be glad to schedule that with you. So many people are forgetting to do that. So I can actually take a whole free 30 minutes, 20 30 minutes with you, and we can go through your answers or your responses. I would love to do that, because the ones that I've done with people, it's actually very revealing when we do get to look at the results. The other thing that you'll see on my website, if you haven't seen it either, is I did earlier on in March, I did an introduction to self-love presentation. That was a free presentation, and a lot of people, could not make it, to that session. So what I did was I recorded the session, and we now have it on the website. You also can access that for free. It's called Introduction to Self-Love. Just click on there on the link, and you'll be able to watch the whole session. I think it was about an hour that we did that. So again, that will also expand on the information of what is self-love, and why do we even need to worry about self-love. And also it's going to expand on the reasons why self-love is a much needed journey that we all need to put energy into and focus into the gift of self-love. So that's the introduction of this session today, because what I wanted to do was to make sure that we get into why is it that it's so difficult for us to love ourselves. So here we go. Oh no, there's another house cleaning that I wanted to do. So here's what happens, right? And I know many of you, I told you that this is my first time getting on lives, and I wanted to make sure that, I come out and be consistent on Tuesdays and do this, right? So here's what happens. I'm actually live not only on one platform, I'm live on all my platforms, which means all my Facebook pages, I'm live on them. I'm also live on LinkedIn. I'm live on YouTube, and I'm also live, going live on Twitter. I go live over there. And this is just me. I don't have an assistant that I could say, listen, I'm live here. Can you push me the questions, that I need to answer? So unfortunately, right now, I haven't figured it out how to do it myself, where I can look either on all of the platforms, or I can have, myself on one platform that I'll be able to look at and be able to answer. So just in case you make a comment during the live, which is every Tuesday from 3 to 4, if you make a comment and I don't respond to it, most likely it's because I have not looked and seen on all of those platforms to see who has, put in a question in there. I mean, it's no excuse. So what I do is, after the lives, I usually and almost always will go through, in all the comments and questions that might be there, and then I answer the questions and I answer the comments. So don't lose heart. Put on your comments anyway. Put on any questions that you might have anyway. I definitely, right under your question, will come through and answer all of your questions. Even if it's after the live. So I just wanted to say that, to all of you, to make sure that you don't think that I'm ignoring you, as I'm doing the live. Many a time it's because I haven't looked and I haven't seen the comments, because they're on different platforms, that I'm live at the same time. So it's a cool thing that I do, that I'm live on multiple channels. And somebody asked me the other day and they said, how do you do that? Well, guess what? I use this site. It's called StreamYard.com. So they have a way that I can stream live on all the platforms, which is so cool. And then what, I get to keep all the recordings as well, so that what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to just end up putting most of the recordings, to add them into my membership for all the members, that because some of the members that I have in my membership, program on the Empowerment Academy, they don't go on social media. They don't do all that. So you know what? I'm glad that we record this, because I also put it in there, and then they can watch, any of these and all of them in their own time, at their own leisure. So that's the spiel on answering the questions and coming up. So as I said, I'll do as much as I can to look through the screens, but if I don't get to see the questions or the comments, I will definitely get back to you. So despite how a lot of people have talked about self-love, and how we as mental health professionals have also talked about self-love, and maybe even helped people start to navigate it in our sessions, right? It is a journey. It's not like what social media has done, where you say, you know what, make sure that you look yourself in the mirror and take bubble baths of self-love, and then buy yourself, Gucci, or buy yourself some expensive stuff, and make sure you love yourself first, and you tell people that this is the way that you love me, because I want to be loved this way. I mean, all those surface stuff. Don't get me wrong. Yes, that's part of self-love. But it's a deeper process than just on the surface like that. One of the difficult things that make us, also have a challenge or difficulty with self-love is literally at the beginning. It goes all the way back to the beginning. And it goes all the way back to the beginning of who raised you, what values were instilled within you, what you saw around you, among the adults, among the people that were there. It also goes all the way back to, unfortunately, the violations that were done that prevent you from even opening up your heart to love, or to understand how really people can love someone and hurt them at the same time. It goes back into relationships that have failed and have left one hardened and really pained to the core, that true love, or even loving another, is difficult. So if loving another is difficult, can you imagine how hard it is to love yourself? So some people will even make it that it is difficult for them to see themselves as lovable or as loving. So it becomes something that, unfortunately, when we are closed up like that, when we are so affected by our past and our beginning, it is hard to move on. And many of us, have at one point or another just put the mask on and move on. But at some point, the mask has to come off. The mask has to come off so that you can be you. The mask has to come off so that you can enjoy who you truly are. And many a time, and I remember in interviews when I used to look for jobs and I was working, and you'd be asked, who are you? And you'd go on this tangent, I'm a hardworking person and I'm lovable, and I'm determined and dedicated. Everything was just on the surface when I look at it now and think about it. Because who I truly, deeply am, at that point, I didn't know. It was just a whole jump of everything. And I just wanted to make sure that I have a job. And as I finished my school and now I was into business. And the business was something else. You stumble and you fall and you don't know what's wrong and you try to do this, but then part of it, as I look back and worked on the self-love, I realized that, boy, I needed to really get to the core of who I am. When it came to loving relationships, I needed to get to the core of who I am. The second thing, so then let me just summarize that one. So that past relationships, upbringing, and the environment within the house and outside the house, the environment that you grow up, it helps you build what we call a narrative of how you look at life and what self-love means to you. And guess what? Each one of us will have a very different definition of what self love is based on that narrative, based on what it is that we know. And you know what? What you know is what you know. And what you don't know, you don't know. But when you know more and understand more, it helps you build a whole different narrative, come up with a whole different narrative. And that's my goal. That as we talk about self-love, as we continue to work on self-love, that you get the steps, baby steps, until you can walk, to build or rebuild your narrative that you have, at this moment. The second reason why it is so difficult and challenging to love ourselves is the inability or the challenge of letting go and forgiving. Last month, I think it was last month, I had an interview with, one of the most gifted ladies that I have interviewed, and, Mel Magengesha, and she's in Australia, and she wrote a book. It's on forgiveness. And I remember telling her that it's a really good topic and book to write on, because many, many people are really, really struggling with forgiveness and letting go. And I think forgiveness is a gift that we give to ourselves. Forgiveness is also an opening of many channels that we can explore in our lives. It allows us to freely be ourselves. I'm sure you've heard of, challenges where people have a difficulty believing in themselves, have a difficulty even embracing the gift that is within them. Maybe sometimes, you're one of those that even have a difficulty exploring other channels, or other things in your life, just because you heard the voice that you're not good, you're not good enough, it's not for you, or not, this cannot be for you. This is, for so and so, or it's for people that only have such and such an education or such and such a training. And then all of a sudden, you get into what we call self-sabotaging yourself, because then you get in your own way and say, well, you know what? I don't think I'm that qualified, or I don't think that I am that kind of person. So then we get to disqualify ourselves. And then you get into a space where I struggled with that, where with the self-sabotaging, struggled with it for years. And I will talk more about it at some other time. And then you get into a space where also you actually are doing things, but then you don't believe that this is you and that you actually are doing it. Again, you get into that space where you're stuck. And you get to wonder, why am I stuck? Again, you get a difficulty embracing yourself and self-loving yourself. We don't want to call it self-loving. We don't even want to call it, loving yourself, because again, we heard that loving yourself is selfish. You've got to put other people first. You've got to love other people first. And I'm not saying don't love other people. I'm not saying don't put other people, in your circle of caring. But I'm saying it's time to care for you first. It's time for you to put yourself up, in the front row, where you take care of yourself. Because as you take care of yourself, as you are in a good space, guess what? You've got all this energy, time, and also the will to take care of other people. I'm always reminded of, when you get on the plane and they're saying, you know what, buckle your own seatbelt first, because when you're safe, then you can, buckle the child, and, buckle another person to help the person next to you, because you've got to make sure that you are safe. So this is another one where I'm saying you've got to make sure that you yourself are in a loving space. And once you are in that loving space, that's when we can get into the gift of giving, forgiving yourself, and all this. It's got to get into the space of, what, I have worked through myself, and now I'm in that space of forgiving myself. So I'm saying it is a workable journey, but I understand why it can be so difficult and challenging for many to even think about. So here's another third thing that I put down: other people's opinions and other people's expectations will make it difficult for us to embrace the gift of loving ourselves. Whose voice do you hear? Whose voice is an influence in your life? In fact, let me ask it this way: whose voices are an influence in your life? I didn't have just one voice where I say, oh, it's my parents, oh, it's my mother, oh, it's my father. No, I had a whole village of voices that I heard. I have how I'm from Zimbabwe. So, it takes a village to raise, a child. So here's the problem with that village. When it's a whole village, you've got all these voices that have helped raise you. Great. But when it comes to a certain phase in your life where now you want to really understand, and make your voice louder than all those other voices so that you can find yourself, it's a bit of a work, because it's not just one voice. So here's the thing: whilst you're listening to this, take a piece of paper and just write down a list of the voices that have influenced your life. Whose voices do you hear? What are those voices saying to you? What do you remember being told? What do you remember being advised? What do you remember seeing? And what do you remember hearing? It'll be interesting when you get that list of answering all these questions, why it is either easier, challenging, or even difficult for you to love yourself or to work on the journey of self-love. The fourth and final thing that I came up with is vulnerability, being vulnerable. And maybe not just being vulnerable, but wanting to be someone, right, that will be embraced or that will be loved by others. So that need to be loved, that need to love another, will prevent us from loving ourselves, because we want to make sure that we are always, giving in and giving of ourselves so that we can get the love back, right? So then we become vulnerable, and we also negate to love ourselves, and it becomes difficult. So many a time when I was working on myself and working on others, at the back of my head, I was always asking myself, would this be a disrespect to other people, to my community, to my village, if I take back my power If I get to know and understand who Stembile is and who truly I am and who I was created to be, so that I can be this a free spirit that I was created to be, would that be a disrespect to other people? And I had to constantly ask myself that. And then I realized that, it's been total disrespect to disrespect who I am and not understand, the best version of myself, right? So it's not about me disrespecting other people. I respect their values. I respect everybody who raised me. I respect and love everybody in the village who raised me. But the gift of self-love is a gift of just me now looking at myself. I had to look at myself. Who am I, and who do I really want to show up as every day? Not to have this, who am I showing up as, today, and then, show up as a different person all the time. And I mean that from the inside. The outside, don't even worry about it. You've noticed I happen to be a sister, so we got different hairstyles and different this, but that's on the outside. That's fine. I'm talking about the inside, of working in the inside and really understanding who we truly are and who we were created to be. And that's what my goal is. So guess what, gentlemen, you know what? This is for you for another time. For the ladies out there, I want to introduce you to the gift of self-love, loving yourself unconditionally. As a mental health professional, life coach, career coach, I decided, you know what? I want to take my ladies with me on a 90-day journey so that I can now share what I have learned and what has helped me become this free spirit that you all are enjoying. And I am really, truly enjoying being a free spirit. So I created this course that you will see at the front of the website, www.drstemi.com. It's called The Gift of Self-Love, Learning to Love Yourself Unconditionally. I did it for 90 days because, some people that have reached out said, wow, why is it 90 days? Because you know what? It takes a lifetime for us to really go through the stuff that, have helped us have the narrative of who we are today, and some of the things that we need to allow ourselves to let go, and also those things that are within that we also need to learn to embrace within ourselves. It took me years to go through the process, and also working with someone that helped guide me through getting to the space where I was able to forgive. I was able to really look at myself in the mirror, and I was able to really embrace the gift that I have, and be able to come now and be able to do the same process with everyone out there who will be joining me to go through this 90-day process. In order for you to learn about all the weeks, so 90 days is only 12 weeks, it's really nothing. But here's the best part. You will not do it alone. You won't be alone. I will be right there with you, walking through each step with you on this journey to the gift of self-love. So today, I just wanted to make sure that we talk and cover a little bit about why is it that it's hard for us to talk about the gift of self-love, or just self-love in its all. Remember, self-love is not selfish. Self-love is a gift that we give to ourselves. When we love ourselves, it is so easy for another to love us. It is so easy for us to give of ourselves, to serve unconditionally, and really serve from the heart, knowing that I am just one person and nobody else can serve like me. Even though we might be doing the same service, but nobody can do it like me. Neither can I do it like you, and the next person cannot do it like you. Self-love allows me to, if I'm in a job, to literally have the confidence to speak up for myself, to have the confidence to ask for what it is that I deserve. And that's why I'm so excited that for those of you that will join me in this 90 days, it will be a game changer. Because with that comes the freedom to really pursue, achieve, and find yourself being successful in life, in anything that you have been pursuing or that you want to pursue. It's a step towards that freedom. So once again, go on my website, www.drstemi.com. I'm always looking for someone to join me in these conversations. So if you have your own topic that you want to talk about, or you want to join me on my topics, please email me or just send me a message on any of my social media platforms and say, hey, Dr. Sam, I want to be a guest, or I want to talk about such and such a topic, or you know what, I want to discuss whatever topic that you have on that week. I'm always open to that. So please inbox me or email me at drstem14@gmail.com and come. Let's have a discussion. We can have 3-4 women, which my hope is that I can do that. I can engage 4, 5, 6 people, and we can have some really great conversations about life in general, business, career, and just let me know. So once again, visit my website. You've got the self-love quiz, you've got the replay of the introduction to self-love, and now you have more information on the gift of self-love, loving yourself unconditionally. So until next week, I can't wait to see you again every Tuesday, 3 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. Until then, this is Dr. Stem. Be encouraged.